Hola amigues, it's your girl Gigi, aka Angelica Helvis, and today we're going to be turning Cartoon Network characters into Pokemon. Now, if you were a kid in the late 90s, early 2000s, you know Cartoon Network was the place to be for animated content and cartoon shows. Like, no shade to Disney, DX, Nickelodeon, heck, even Fox Kids. I love Digimon. But nothing could even come close to the absolute sauce that Cartoon Network was putting out in that golden era of animation. Like, it's why I wanted to become an animator. So definitely this crossover was in the works because I needed to combine my childhood iconic cartoon heroes with another franchise that I equally love, which is Pokemon. So keep in mind I will be, oh my god, can you guys hear that? The frogs here are so loud. I will be keeping in mind the character's skills, abilities, powers, but I'm going to try and keep it as close as possible to the design while also giving you guys a Pokemon fusion that you deserve. If it's Dexter's Lab, for example, I can't just have a humanoid kid. If there's another Cartoon Network show that you would like to see me tackle, shout off in the comments. Don't be shy. I like to read them. I appreciate them. And let's get started. So the first show I knew I wanted to tackle right from the start was Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, done by the illustrious, the genius, the latest Craig McCracken. You might know him from like, I don't know, a little show called Powerpuff Girls, and the most recent Kid Cosmic, which I'm a big fan of. Definitely recommend watching it on Netflix. But Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends just has such an array of dynamic and crazy character design. I thought that would be a perfect fit for Pokemon, to be honest. Starting off the list, it's a top imaginary friend himself, the self-proclaimed star of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. It's Bloo, the main protagonist of the show. Bloo is a prankster, a mischief king, and he has a fairly simple design. He's literally just a circle with a long cylinder. So keeping true to that, I'm gonna keep him with a water typing just because it makes sense. He's blue, he's fluid, and water's a perfect typing for that. But Bloo is also kind of a little toxic guy. He's a little toxic force in the house. So how about we do a dual typing and go for water and poison type? Yeah, I think that's gonna be really fun, so let's see it. So right now I'm just inking his silhouette, which is deceptively simple because it has to be perfect. I made sure to add some details around his figure with those squiggly lines to mimic sort of like Grimers and Mucks, shading in their more fluid bodies. I think that was a really nice touch and can really add another layer to this aqua sort of sludge creature that Bloo is. Just really simplifying them, making sure that they really go with his form and that they follow the motion of his action. I'm using again a very simple color palette that's true to Bloo, with the namesake being present throughout the design, and making sure that those squiggly lines are registering as water highlights or something a little bit more serene, because even though he's a mischief, I don't want him to be a scary Pokemon. Pokemon should be friends first and scary monsters second. So I'm trying to soften the little bit more of a manic look that I gave him, and here's the final result. Everybody meet Paradeep. Paradeep is an imaginary friend type, with water and toxic being his main typings. Paradeep is a portmanteau on parody and the deep blue sea. Aren't I clever? Mischievous and playful, this Pokemon is always down for a prank. If not reared by a strong trainer, it can quickly become a handful. Needs constant mental stimuli to keep it happy. Its size is a 2 feet tall and 0 inches, so he's probably like the size of a 6-year-old toddler, and he sure behaves like one. I'm actually really pleased with this design. It's got a little bit more of a modern twist on Bloo, where it's not just a simple long body. It's got a little bit more of dimension with the shading and the water lighting. For his shiny version, it's got a little bit more of a ghastly green color to really highlight the pollution of his toxicity. Because let's face it, we all thought at one point, wow, Bloo is hecking toxic, bro. So up next on the roster, it's your boy Wilt. He's kind-hearted, confident, and incredibly cool. And what better way to show off his athleticism than by making him a fighting type? I mean, he's definitely got that fighting spirit. But I also wanted to give him a dual fighting type because I can't help myself. He's got that fiery attitude and competitiveness that really gives him an extra edge. So why not add some little fire into that typing too? Let's check it out. Not going to lie, Wilt's design was pretty tricky to start with. I mean, he already looks like a Pokemon in the original design, but I tried my best. I focused on giving him a really active, athletic pose and made some fire coming out of his shorter limb, sort of like throwing a back fire cannon at any of his opponents on the fighting field or the basketball field. Basketball field? It's a basketball court. Anyways, I made little circular motifs for his wristband and his shoes accessories, sort of like how Hitmonlee has those for fighting. His hair tufts gave me such a headache, and his eyeballs too. I just didn't know how to feature those into his design, so I ended up making little Pokeballs hanging off of his head just to give him something to distract his opponents with, kind of like Among Us, and Voltorb maybe could work in a similar fashion. I gave him a really wide, mischievous smirk because he's willing to do anything to get those Pokemon and those trainers out on the basketball court with him. Anything to get that game going, right? I started inking him, which was honestly when I started solidifying his design the most and feeling a little bit more confident about it, giving him those little circular knobs, kind of like how Greninja has those sticky fingers, which would work really well for Wilt as well with the basketball. I colored him a bright red because of course he has to be red, and gave him some more softer blue accents, which I later changed to black because I figured it complemented his design a little bit better. His blue fire was also a conscientious choice to just not giving him the generic red flame that usually goes with the Pokemon. And here he is, Wild Dunk. Category Imaginary Friend. His name is a combination of Wilt, Wild, and Dunk, as in he will dunk on you. He's a firefighting type. Highly competitive and playful, it tricks trainers with its Pokeball-like antenna, and once they draw closer, it challenges them to a basketball match. I'm pretty okay with the final result, I'm not gonna lie. I wish I could have played around more with him, but that's all I got for Wilt. His shiny is more on the green hue because I did notice that a lot of the fighting Pokemon tend to be green colored, kind of like the Machop line with Machop, Machoke, and Machamp, all being a little bit more of a greenish hue. It also really complements his red coloring better. He's 10 feet tall, so the tallest long boy in the gang. Definitely taller than me, I'm only 4'11".
So the first character I wanted to do was Eduardo. Eduardo's like this shy, introverted, sweet little gentle giant who looks a little bit intimidating, especially because he's got like his whole lucha libre garb with like the skull belt. It's very punk rock, but he's like the sweetest guy and the biggest scaredy cat. And I immediately knew I wanted him to be a fighting type, but a dual type. Because he looks so menacing, it's really easy to see this guy and think, oh, he's definitely a dark type. But like, look at him. Look at the, he's just a happy little guy. I know, hot take, because fairies are usually confections, foods, very sweet, very fluffy. In the original lore of fairies, they were sometimes shy or deceiving in their looks, and I think Eduardo is the perfect specimen for this. He's a guy who looks really tough, who looks really menacing, but inside he's just a little guy who wants to play and hang out. You guys might not agree. Let me know what you think his typing should have been. But before you decide on that, let's check out the design and see if I can convince you otherwise. Unfortunately, the recording for Eduardo got lost. That I wanted him to be, again, like this luchador, fighting type, very athletic. So here he's like giving a little kick and like punching in the air, his little horn sticking up, looking a little bit menacing. And I kept his pants in a really cutesy way where it looks like pants, it's actually just part of his pattern. I took a lot of inspiration off of Minotaurs and Lucha Libre. So doing Eduardo was just so pleasant for me. It was, I think, the easiest one to make out of all of them. his design just came so naturally to me. It was just obvious. Here's this big round boy who does his little kicky kicks, and it's just kind of like a big goofball. The line work, again, super straightforward. I gave him some little dirt particles and scratches so it looks like he tumbles around, and people will think like, ah, he's probably dirty from all the fighting. No, he's probably dirty from all the running away. Okay, everybody. Meet Luchator, the imaginary friend Pokemon. He's a fairy fighting type, and his name is a mix of Luchador and Minotaur. Pretty straightforward, but I was actually kinda proud of myself for that one. Despite his menacing appearance, it has a gentle disposition and is renowned as a great guardian friend for young children. While timid, it is immensely strong and protective of its trainers. I really love this idea of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friend Pokemons because these are a perfect fit for the Pokemon world. They're mostly entangled with kids and are there to not only keep them safe, but entertain them, have fun with them, and help them grow into adults. I imagine Luchadors being particularly popular in daycare centers, preschools, or any other sort of educational institution where kids are present. Like, who wouldn't want to take nap time with Luchador? He looks so fluffy and like the best cuddle buddy. I made his height 4'11", a little bit bigger than the kids so they can feel like they're hugging a big friend. For his shiny version, I didn't want to go with the fan cast of black shinies because everybody does that, but I get it. They look so good. But I had my reasons. I made Luchator's shiny a black Pokemon to sort of reference bulls and how they tend to be black in Spain, and that's a really good callback to Luchator's, or at least Eduardo's, Spanish roots in the show. So yeah, tell me what you think of this fairy fighting type and if you agree with my typing. If not, what would you have selected for Eduardo? Or should I say Luchator? I gotta say, I'm actually really pleased with the final result of this.
So while Blue and Eduardo were easy breezy and Wilt was okay to design, Coco was giving me a major headache. Like, what is even going on with her? She's got like a palm tree, a yucca plant, an airplane, a bird, like Chica, get it together. But that's why we love her, right? And the more I worked on her design, even though I hated every second of it at the beginning, her design ended up being my favorite out of the four. Let's check it out. So for my first initial sketches, I started working with the idea of making her a steel type, as evidenced by the airplane wings protruding out of her body. But honestly, she just ended up looking like a cheap Latios knockoff. Like, I was not happy with where this was going, and so I pivoted and decided, listen, Coco's an original. She's not gonna be imitating any airplanes, at least not physically, and instead went for more of a primitive approach to her design. And once I got that in my head, everything flowed so much more easily. Like, the body language just came naturally. This isn't a bird that can fly. This is a bird that wants to fly. And she is hindered by her general goofy proportions and the fact that she has stuffed her nest, which is her egg, full of leaves and foliage, which really just drag her down. Maybe for an evolution, we'll finally get to see her fly away. But for now, she's just a little goofy hatchling egg, just no thoughts, had empty energy, and I love that for her. In here, I decided to really push the leaves motifs, but in a more minimal manner. She has in the original design a huge crown of feathers, but I just kept it almost baby chick is by like keeping just those 3 little tufts of leaves in the head. Gave her some more like organic shapes and lines to her figure, not those robotic lines that were not doing anything for her original design. And I gotta say, I'm really happy with her. She's such a baby, like the original Coco, a little bit garish, a little bit gaudy, but that's why we love her. And I just fell in love with this design immediately, and I'm so happy with it. So I present to you guys Cacophony, the loud Pokemon. Cacophony is obviously a play on words of coconut and cacophony, which is a loud sound. And if anybody ever watched Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, y'all know Coco was loud. She's a grass type Pokemon. It wears its egg as a walking nest for resting. Though its wings are too small to fly, it uses leaves to pretend it can. Their loud squawks can be heard for miles. For the shiny, I went again with the neon greenish look because I noticed a lot of the grass type Pokemons tend to go that route, like Oddish and Vileplume. I'm just really happy with her design. I think she's like a little goober baby, and I would definitely have her on my team. Like, look at her. She doesn't have a single brain cell there, and we love her for that. That's it for today's episode. Thanks so much for watching. Muchas gracias. Like and subscribe for more videos, and join my Patreon to decide which Cartoon Network show should I do next. A huge, muy grande shout out to my current patrons, Juliana Blodinger, Nicole Perez, Leida Ordet, and Paco Pacato. You guys are the OG Tadpole gang, and I love you for it. Adios y chaito pues. See you on the next one.